Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 8th and final day of the Airthings Masters. It's been a long journey. It started with 16 players. We moved on to the knockouts of 8, then 4, then 2, and today we will crown a winner. Yesterday, Magnus, Carlsen, and Nepomniachtchi played 3 extremely hard-fought games and one game. That sound indicates that it was lukewarm. And they made 4 draws. Well, today we don't have that option. Today, if the players are 2-2 after the rapid portion, they will play Blitz. And after that, they will play an Armageddon if it's still drawn. On that note, let's go to the games. I haven't put any timestamps on today's video, player, because I don't want to spoil anything. You're just going to have to watch these beautiful games unfold as they do. Got some dog stuff on my eyeglasses. Here we go. E4. C5, Magnus going for the Sicilian Defense, an opening that he really has played his entire life, but since 2018 against Fabiano Caruana, this is like anytime Magnus goes for a Sicilian imbalanced game and absorbing the powers of guys like Dubov and Van Forest, it's always going to be very interesting. So we have a Rossalimo. G6 is the main line of the Rossalimo. Yesterday we saw Magnus play E6. He has also played D6. He has played just about everything. G6 is the main line. Now, white can take on C6 here. Black can take with the D or the B pawn. White will then play D3, and play goes on. But Nepo plays the second main line, which is castles. And oftentimes, if you're not going to take on C6 right away, what you'll do is you will develop with C3 and D4, C3 and D4 to the middle, or you're going to play something like Rook E1, bring the bishop back to F1, because you decided not to take, and then you'll figure out what you're doing in the center of the board. Or you'll just play D3 and take at a later moment. Nepo plays D3 first. Magnus here chooses to play a move that's not that popular. For example, Knight F6 is played here. Knight H6 has also been played so that Black reserves the idea to play F5 in the future. He plays D6, and he actually played this against Levon Ranyan in the prelims, and I believe that game went takes, and E5. Basically sacrificing a pawn to split the structure of Black, potentially. In this game, Nepo plays E5 straight away, and it's move 6, and we have a position that's never occurred. That's nuts. Considering that, like, 5 moves ago, we had a position that's probably been played 50,000 times if you combine online, official over the board, and, you know, games at the bar where you're drunk. Yeah, so E5. So Nepo basically does it in a slightly different move order, but we kind of get the same situation where white is targeting the e-pawn, and if, you know, you just give white the e-pawn, then this structure is just sus. It's just not, for those of you that don't know what shorthand, sus, you know, suspicious. It's suspicious pawn structure, right? So we have queen c7, knight a3, and it's very obvious that Nepo wants knight c4 and he wants to take on e5. It's not very easy for Black to make a move here. Because, for example, if you play f6 with Black, that's just an ugly move. Like, I don't know, here... How do you guard this pawn? You probably don't, because if you try to hang on to this pawn, first of all, why'd you move your queen there? Now here, knight c4, etc. I mean, the whole structure plays into white's hands. So Magnus just gives him back material and plays knight d5, and he now, you know, he has the strong bishop. Obviously, we have this, and we have castles. And both sides have sort of gotten everything that they want from the opening. Nepo plays h3. H3 is a waiting move, but it also does restrict this bishop. So, for example, if this knight ever has to return back to f3, there is no bishop g4, right? That's the entire point. Like, if you don't play that and you do something like this, then after this, I actually do have bishop g4, but I also might not even play bishop g4. I might just play e5. So, h3 is just a useful move. The bishop goes in the opposite direction. Nepo plays queen to e2, defends his knight, long-term prospects of pressuring the middle of the board. Magnus kicks out the knight and plays e5. Now, I mean, both sides have accomplished, like, they're kind of opening goals. Bishop e3 played by Jan. He targets this, and he is completely fine giving away the bishop for the knight. He's fine with that. He told me. Takes. Queen e3 here is the very natural response. That is the idea. It's not easy at all for Black to defend this. For example, if Black plays queen e7, white will bring the next knight. And if you compare the quality of the pieces, it ain't close. I mean, this bishop is not... The bishop is a glorified pawn. It's a pawn with a hat. I mean, I don't know. It's a pawn that's slightly taller than the next pawn. It's not actually doing anything. You can't play f5 because you lose this, and if you take the knight, you've done nothing. You've just gotten rid of your bishop and helped me. So actually, after queen e3, position is quite pleasant for Jan. Yeah, Magnus really should consider taking on c4 right away. He doesn't, and now Jan plays knight fd2, and he's got a very nice position. I mean, positionally speaking, White is doing very well. But it's not easy to prove that. Stockfish here, if you let it think, wants White to play rook e2 and rook e1, which just doesn't... Like, what are you doing? I mean, are you going to drive your car through this wall? Like, I mean, what is happening here? Okay, you're triple stack. Congratulations. It basically wants White to wait to play the move knight b3. Essentially, what Stockfish is saying here is Black has nothing. So you've frozen Black. You improve to the maximum ability, and then you will play a knight move or a pawn move once you kind of triple up. But Jan plays knight b3 right away. He rushes, and that allows Magnus to consolidate. And basically, even though White has this pressure, it's good for nothing. You're not actually going to get anywhere. Whereas, had you waited and played like rook e2, yes, Black can play moves like bishop f8 and, preemptively defend themselves. But, I mean, at some point, like I said, you have that extra crack. You can also play moves like queen g3, queen f3, right? Targeting those weaknesses. So he had to wait. He doesn't wait. And even though he has everything that looks nice in this position, he got no way through. He's got no way through because Black has more center space. Now, if you go for this f4 idea, I will play e4, I get connect 4, and I win the game. I mean, I'm joking. You don't actually win the chess game when you get connect 4. But, Magnus does get connect 4 ultimately, and just despite his horrible positional weakness, his position is withstanding the pressure, and he's doing quite okay. Jan still controls the d file. I mean, trust me, if this was a game between two 1700s, Black wins, White wins, purple, green, and orange wins, and everything in between. Because actually, if anybody's going to win this game, it's probably Black, because Black has attacking ideas. f4, e3, create a passed pawn, maybe bishop d6 if you accidentally take your eye off the ball, for example, right, and you accidentally get mated. So this knight, as long as it's not winning a pawn, is doing nothing. Actually, if anybody's better, it's probably Black. Knight a5, rook e6, g3, and Magnus decides to trade rooks and play this e3 move. Again, very scary looking. If you take, you just straight up lose. You're going to lose every pawn, so that's terrible. So queen e2, and a little bit of accuracy is still required here. It's a very tense position. For example, let's say you play a lazy move like king g2. You think, okay, queen e4, f3 is not a problem. Yeah, Black plays f3. If you take, I make a queen, and if you take like this, I go check, you block, I go check, and I hunt your king out into the open. Somehow you survive. But so you still got to be a little bit careful. Luckily, Jan is like not he's not a 1700. He's not like the people that I just brought up in this example. And even though White's king is quite open, the knight wanders off over there. The queen does a good job of protecting the king. As we know, the king is a bit of a beta male in chess, so he needs all the protection he can get. This king's kind of a Chad, though, shirtless off in the field. Chasing bears and wrestling them like Khabib style. And the players make a draw. Oh my God, Gotham, 5 games in a row. I mean, ridiculous. Look, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, just don't look at the World Championship. Sometimes this happens. These players are very, very good. Nepo has had an advantage in many of these games, right? Goes back and forth. All right, game number 2. Half-half, didn't have the score up, forgot to put it up, hit the record button, not going to re-record, got my favorite hot sauce here. Don't know why I had to share that with you, just a little bit of a nugget. Why do I have hot sauce next to my recording station? Because I spit spiciness on the screen. I don't actually spit on the screen. Magnus plays bishop c4. Now, this is something we don't usually see at top level. Magnus is going for a scholar's mate, hoping that his opponent doesn't see it. I'm just kidding. This is the bishop's opening. The truth is that you could begin with knight f3, knight c6 and play an Italian, and oftentimes that will happen. But by starting with bishop c4, you sometimes, you could invite this. So c6 will lead to a mainline bishop's opening with d5. That's probably what Magnus wants. And Nepo knows enough about Magnus to not give him everything he wants. Right? Knight f3, d6, and now knight c3. Now, this is how beginners are taught to develop their pieces. I mean, honestly, right? Like, put the pieces in the middle. But normally, at this level, we see this. We see the knight kind of making a rotational journey, and the c3 pawn helping push for the center or the queen side. But here we see knight c3, And Magnus shows us the point. He plays knight a4. Now, this is this is like this is how you elevate your cuisine, right? You start putting that little seasoning on it. For example, if you can barely make an edible peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you're probably not going to be trusted with truffle. Well, this is the truffle right here, knight a4, and we're talking about some executive chef level players. The reason they can do something like this and they don't have to castle, they don't have to follow the rules that you follow, beginners, is because they've been around the block a few times, and they know that if their knight makes a couple of moves and they get a bishop pair, we're going to get a very interesting position. Here, Magnus doesn't castle. He plays a4. Now, he takes a page out of Yesipenko's book, right? So Yesipenko, the ghost of Yesipenko here, who got knocked out by Nepo, holds strong. Now, what's crazy is that in an e4, e5 game, we have millions and millions of games played in history. After the move a4, we have about 10 games in my database, because games just don't go this way. Black is extremely solid, plays bishop d7. Bishop d7 is a novelty, by the way. No one's ever played bishop d7. I don't know why you wouldn't go h6, preventing bishop or knight to g5. I don't know why you wouldn't play bishop g4, bishop e6. What is this move? I don't know. I don't know what that move does. Nepo will show us, though. Bishop d2. Magnus seems to like whatever he does. I mean, here we got two drunk guys who are like, hey, he did it, I'm going to do it too. Castles, and Nepo plays knight e7. We know that in e4, e5 positions, particularly with locked centers, there's a lot of reroutes, so black will either try to put the knight on g6, actually, in this case, that's probably just going to happen. If the knight had gone to d7, we know that d5 was possible, but that's completely impossible in this position. So knight e7, knight g6, and rook e1, c5. Now, Nepo can slow play this. He can play like h6, c6, rook e8, just a bunch of kind of slow, steady moves. He chooses, though, to make an extremely committal pawn move. This move, you can argue, is really anti-positional because you leave yourself with two massive holes on b5 and d5. So accomplishing those breaks is going to be really difficult. But the purpose is to restrict white's play and to play here and then play d5. So if we go all the way back to bishop d7, everything Nepo did made sense. He castled, he rotated his knight, he took space, he put the bishop behind the pawn, and he attacked the center with d5. So technically, everything Jan is doing, even though it's a bit strange, one thing follows the other. Fascinating, right? Absolutely fascinating how it all ties together. Magnus is also greeting him on the queen side. Now, you have to take this, because otherwise you get taken, right? So takes. We have bishop takes d5, and a very interesting situation. If you take on d5, black plays queen takes, and is very active. This bishop is a bit stupid. The rook pressures this. Black is doing very well. If you take on e5, it looks like you're winning a pawn. But there's knight e5, rook e5, bishop c4, dc4, and the queen arrives on the d4 square. This is not a fork, but this is. And so, for example, if you play rook e3 or rook e1, I'm going to take this pawn, and then I'm going to go beat up the rest of the pawns. All right, they're quite feeble. So in a worst case scenario, you end up in a position where you've just, your whole queen side's fallen apart. Probably not going to happen because it's Magnus, but that's kind of the situation. Now, Magnus, unsurprisingly, plays the top stockfish move, because he's Magnus. He plays bishop b5. The point of this is that because Jan made those positional weaknesses, remember? The move c5, long time ago. If your pawns are further back, you have flexibility to play moves like c6. But by overextending, the bishop gets to live on a square it normally wouldn't live on. And it's got support, so you don't have an a pawn to play a6, you don't have a c pawn to play c6, and your knights are here, so what are you going to do about this bishop? You can't play rook e8 now. Because Jan is positionally worse, right? He's got more weaknesses and just sort of more problems than the white position, and he doesn't have the bishop pair. He has to solve his problems not positionally, but he has to solve his problems dynamically. That is, by the way, you're learning like really advanced stuff. I know sometimes I'm like danger levels, and then I got spicy hot sauce here, but like, that's the major criticism of my content, is it's not serious enough. You're actually going to learn something super serious right now, which is to solve the dynamic, the static or the positional problems that you have in your position. You must play dynamically. You must play forcefully. You have to play to the strengths of your position. If that means a forward pawn lunge supported by strong pieces in the center, that's what you got to do. So D takes on E4. Bishop takes e4 here is good. Jan plays knight takes e4. And here the best move for Magnus is the very obscure rook a3, with the intention to bring the rook to the middle. But b takes c5 is played. Now that's the thing about dynamics, right? I mean, now we're in a situation where white can't just play lazy moves and be better. White has to play concretely, right? So he plays bc5, also fine. Knight takes d2. Knight takes d2, because if you take with the queen, I'm gonna take. And then, okay, we can trade queens, but look at what you've done. That's terrible, right? Absolutely terrible. So, knight d2, knight f4, and black seems to have solved his problems. Actually, if anybody's attacking anybody, looks like black is attacking. Bishop f1, and here a move like queen g5 just looks exceptional. I mean, it looks like bishop g2 is threatened, it looks like knight h3 is threatened, but believe it or not, one pawn move, and that's it. Because the thing is that white is up a pawn, so if black takes back a pawn, I'm suddenly kicking you out. Somehow. I mean, somehow, despite all these pieces swarming this area, there's no attack. Everything is completely well protected. So Magnus's king is very well protected, right? So for that reason, we have b takes c5. Very complex position. Jan has solved his problems. So for the sixth game in a row, we have a topsy-turvy game. Knight to c4. And now bringing the queen makes sense. Queen g5 also makes sense. Difference being that this doesn't quite work anymore because of knight h3, bishop c4. So queen arrives. Knight back to e3, bishop back. We don't want to get taken. Knight attacks the queen. Queen to g5. And Magnus attacks the knight. Now, folks, if I asked you here what to do with black, when your knight is under attack, what would you say? Some of you would say, take the pawn with check, and not realize that I just showed you that hangs a piece. Most of you would say, retreat the knight. Yes, that is the best move. But some of you would say, danger levels, rook d8 attacking the queen. Now, that's what Jan played. But sometimes in chess, when you try to do danger levels, your levels also get dangered. That's not English, but it's something I like to say. Now both sides have a hanging queen, so if you take this, I take this. That's not what Jan missed. All right? Jan didn't miss that he's losing his knight with a tempo. Jan thought that in this position, he's sacking a piece for a strong attack. A potentially fatal attack. For example, if I shield my queen from the rook, here comes f5. Where do you put the knight? If you try to put the knight like this, I play queen h4, rook f6, and the rooks slide over, and this bishop is a killer. Black is winning. So Jan must have liked something here, and his idea, if the queen moved, must have been to play rook e8. And again, what does white do? If white plays knight back to e3, rook d6, rook g6, I mean, there is a strong attack. Now, I hypothesize that Jan overlooked the idea of another danger level, which is rook ad1. That is pure savagery. This didn't happen in the game. I know sometimes guys get confused. I'm saying this is what Jan overlooked. He overlooked the fact that you can hit the rook. If you take the queen, it's back rank mate. And I mean, in a move or two. And if you take the rook, I sack the queen for back rank mate. And that little trick buys white some time to remove that rook and defend his king. Jan sacked a piece unsuccessfully and suddenly goes, oh my god. And if you remember, this is game 6. Jan's first loss in the World Championship happened in game 6. Must be an unlucky number, I don't know. Rook e8. Game's not over though. Oh, the game's not over. Here comes h5. The knight scurries back, but black doesn't have the ability to rotate over, because if he tries, right, with rook e5, that's not what he played. If he tries with rook e5, I take, and I play c3. It doesn't matter if you can check me, because I have one last line of defense. If you play h4 to try to play queen g5, I just have knight g4. So I'm able to block you with my knight and my bishop and everything. Rook e8, bishop g2, and now all Magnus has to do is not blunder something horrible. He plays rook e1. He's just a piece up. What can you say? He is just a piece up. Now, Jan does have 2 pawns, but when you have, all the enemy pawns restricted like this, no pawns are passing, and a 3-on-2 is just not enough of an imbalance. Watch how Magnus wins this game. This is actually instructive because at this level they win instantly. This is not an auto win at lower levels. So Magnus finds a way to get his king a little active, but safe, right? Brings the knight. Jan tries to create a trade and push the c-pawn. White can win this by getting into a knight endgame or by attacking the king. He is choosing to attack the king. He's confident moving his king up because there's no checks, right? Okay, there's checks, but he's safe. And he's going to win this game by attacking the king. Queen e8, queen f8, Nepo resigns because king h7, knight f6 mate. King survived, right? King survived because every move was a check. And Magnus wins game 6 and takes a 1.5 to half lead. Now, Jan must strike back with the white pieces. This might look familiar to you. Jan has played a couple of Rossalimos, but Magnus changes it up and plays e6. Now, Magnus does play all types of Sicilians. In general, if you play the Sicilian with black at the 2800 level, you know how to play all of them. So you know how to play Knight, or if you know how to play Dragon, you know how to play Timon of Khan, etc. But he plays e6. And he plays Knight c6 and Queen c7. This is known as the Timon of Sicilian. This is one of the absolutely mainline variations. I mean, I really can't stress enough how many times these positions have occurred. I mean, Queen f3, Queen d2, f4, f3, Bishop e2. I mean, I don't know how many lines there are here. Just so many lines. But recently, in like the last year and a half, folks have been playing this. Now, this is a common idea in these kind of positions. There's something called the Ketus Attack, named after Paul Keres. And the point is that if black plays knight f6, you're going to play g5. Very simple point. But also, you're going to play bishop g2 and maybe g5, h4, and attack. So it's just kind of a Kickstarter on the attack, right? That's what you want. However, it's kind of a stupid-looking move. So you have to have some engine-backed analysis. Knight takes d4, queen d4, and black plays b5. Two ideas of b5. Number one, b4. Number two, bishop b7, rook c8. Nepo plays long castles, bishop b7, and at some point now, black is actually able to play the move knight f6. Why is black able to play that move? Didn't we just say that the entire purpose was to have g5? Yes, but the queen is not there anymore. The knight can now go to g4. You see, if you played knight f6 way back, you don't have knight g4, I take your knight, and what is that? No. So that is why in this position you can play g5. You can also play f3. Both moves have been played. g5, f3, and rook g1 have all been played. All of them serve the purpose of dealing with this threat, right? Very imbalanced position. Black is completely fine leaving the king in the middle in many of these Sicilians. Rook c8, right? g5, knight h5, and all these moves have been following the game between two players you might have heard of. Vishwanathan Anand, 5-time world champion, the pride of India, and Jordan Van Forest, Tata Steel, no. Grand Chess Tour, Zagreb, Croatia, Rapid 2019 was following this exact position. Magnus, when you go through his games, so many of his games follow Dubov or a Van Forest game. It's incredible the information that he's absorbed, right? So queen d2, bishop e7, black develops, and now bishop h3. Now, if you let Stockfish run on depth like 25, it really thinks white has a great position here. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Magnus has, I mean, I'm sure Magnus has analyzed it at a far greater depth than I have. So, yeah, he was confident to go into this position. b4, knight back to e2, d5, and this position had been reached between Anand and Van Forest. And in that game, bishop d4 was played, attacking the rook, black castled, and white played e5. So Anand had terrific prep. He locked the center. Van Forest got out of the way. Vichy played h4 and went on to slaughter Jordan. And I like Jordan. I don't mean any disrespect to Jordan, but that game was brutal. I mean, in case this doesn't look brutal, I mean, it looks like black is just going to run over. Sorry, white is just going to run over black. It's actually a little bit deceptive. Like, black's attack is quite legitimate as well. But, I mean, yeah. But Nepo doesn't play bishop d4. So, I guess Jan was kind of on his own. He didn't remember if there was a difference between the two moves, because he took and played knight f4. He didn't play bishop d4 at all. He took and just very, very deliberately went for the h5 pawn. That also makes a lot of sense. And the crazy thing is here, black has to fight in the middle. Black's king stays directly in the center of the board and just says, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm completely fine. Everything's good. Oh my God. Everything's fine. You know, like when your anxiety acts up at like 2 a.m. right before sleep? Yeah. Like you're like, everything's fine. Relax. Just go to sleep. Everything's cool. Or you like think of something you did 10 years ago. I mean, like, it's like one of those things, right? I mean, you're like, So, takes on e4, knight h5, and pawn takes f3. Magnus is so savage. I mean, it's almost as if Magnus is like, yo, Jan, play knight f6. Go ahead. Go ahead. If I lose, the worst thing that happens is we play another rapid game. More content for Gotham's recap. Thanks, Magnus. What a great guy. I mean, it looks like black is just going to get, smashed. I mean, right? Rook comes. How's this rook ever getting out? If you play rook g8 to try to escape, I play bishop b6, and, like, it's mate. I mean, Jan is so close in this position to, I don't know, but he plays bishop f4. He plays bishop f4. I mean, I'm very confused why he didn't just play knight f6. I suppose there is king f8, and then I don't have to take. But bishop d4, I mean, how does black move anything? And the more the computer sits and thinks about this position, the more the computer's like, I don't know either. You can't play e5, I take. If you take knight d7, I mean, I don't know. Knight f6 check, not played. Instead, he plays bishop f4. Magnus slides back to d8. He's offering a queen trade, and now knight f6 is not possible, because takes, and we can trade queens. If you get the queen off the board, black is not in any danger. So queen d8 is a cold bucket of water, a Norwegian winter cold bucket of water on Nepo's head here. I mean, queen d8, and I don't know. I don't know what to play. I mean, of course, queen e3 looks quite good. Okay, but now Magnus plays bishop d5. For example, here with white, let's say you play bishop e5. There is bishop takes g5. I'm just fast enough everywhere. And this is defending my position over there. The Sicilian tends to be like that. Like, sometimes you think you're completely winning, and it's just absolutely not the case. Nepo plays knight f6 now, takes, and now rather than queen f6, which would triumphantly hang a full rook, just rook g8. I just talked about this, right? Black needs the rook on the g file, or else black is gonna get hit with rook g1. Like, if for example, like rook g1, and this is a totally different game. So black plays rook g8, rook e1, and rook g2. And 25 moves into this game, it's like, wait, I thought white was the attacker. Nope. Turns out that Magnus had everything under control the entire time, and there's nothing white can do. White is already down a pawn, and the problem for him is it's a pawn that's about to become a queen. It's not a pawn that's back there. It's a pawn that's about to become a queen, and it's not easy to defend your own queen side anymore, let alone stop queen a5, queen a2. So while these pieces stop this attack, they are also brewing a counterattack. Nepo plays queen a7, queen d7 once again. A clutch defensive move. You can get a pawn, then I will go here and eat everything. So queen d4, he comes back, and now a flashy finish. Rook takes c1 check. King takes c1. Now you say, why didn't he go here? Bishop here would have won his queen, right? Discovered check. Check. King goes back, and queen a4. And there is no way to prevent any one of these attacks. Rook d2. Bishop takes a2. Jan Nepomniachtchi resigns in view of either of these leading to a forced checkmate. And Magnus Carlsen is the Airthings Masters 2022 champion. Amazing. Out of nowhere. You know, when I saw that Nepo was on the way to losing that second game, I had a really bad feeling about this third game. I sort of put my day on pause. I was like, oh, he might lose the next one. It's not out of the question. And man, it's this match really goes to show that the chess world is broken right now. Because Jan demolished the prelims. Demolished. He broke away so far. His performance rating was so close to 2,900. He crushed people in the playoffs. He runs into Magnus, where how many games did they play against each other? 7 rapid games. Jan might have been better in all 7. In all 7 of these games, Jan might have had some advantage at some point. Maybe 6 of them. Magnus defended cold-blooded. Didn't lose a single game. 1-2, 5 draws. Didn't lose a single game. I mean, I just don't know. Magnus is he's just unfair. It's just unfair. It's like Durant on the Warriors. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Folks, that concludes the coverage of the Airthings Masters. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me. In 2 days, we have the Grand Prix. So I will be making recaps of that, as well as other content. And that's all for now. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.